Peter Parker might be the original Spider-Man, but as we all know, he definitely isn't the only Spider-Man fighting evil out there across the multiverse. And so, from Miles Morales to Ben Reilly to Gwen Stacy to some much weirder versions of Spider-Man, today we're going to try and answer the question, which Spider-Man is the strongest? Yeah, we're going to rank each and every one of them from weakest to strongest. So let's get to it. What's up guys, I'm Daniel and this is DanCo. We do fight breakdowns every week, plus the occasional power ranking video like this one or things like that. So if that seems interesting to you, we'll sit back and enjoy the video. Hit that like button. If you want to, we'll hit the subscribe button while you're at it. Now let's get to it. While he might just seem like a normal Spider-Man, Hostess Spider-Man is different in one massive way. He'll only attack by throwing Hostess snacks at people, and it usually works. He was originally created as an advertisement for Hostess cakes, but then made his way into the actual SpiderVerse, where he was quickly eaten by Morlun and drained of all life force. One of the more cartoonish Spider-Man is Spider-Girl, who's also the youngest iteration of Spider-Man ever. She's just 11 years old. Penelope Parker got spider powers while she was out on a class field trip, and so she eventually took to the streets to fight some crime. Now, while it looks like she has all the regular Spider-Man powers, she is still just a little girl, so that's going to hold her back a little bit here. There are a lot of Spider-Man variants out there in the Spider-Verse, but this guy has to be the most boring. See, Pete Spider-Man is just a guy whose last name happens to be Spider-Man. He's not a hero, he's actually a CPA. His greatest pride and joy is award-winning lawn. But even with all that, he still does have spider powers. Though it doesn't help that he's still a little out of shape. From the Marvel Apes universe, Spider Monkey is a monkey who was bitten by a radioactive spider. It's right there in the name. While he does have all the same powers as every other Spider-Man, there are still some downsides to being a monkey, especially when you're comparing him to other humans. Like for instance, he's not as smart as other Spider-Men, because he's a monkey, so he's not really the best at planning or strategizing throughout a fight. In this universe, a younger version of Aunt May, May Reilly, is the daughter of a brilliant scientist. And one day May snuck into her dad's lab, was bitten by one of his spiders. Unfortunately, she didn't get any powers. It was just a boring old spider. But she did let it teach her a life lesson. Never let anyone put you in a cage. Weird lesson to learn from a spider biting you, but whatever. Anyways, May then built her own spider suit, with arms that come out of her back like Iron Spider, and took to the streets to fight crime as Lady Spider. Spider-Man Noir is Peter Parker in the 1930s. While he might not have any spider powers, that doesn't stop him from becoming a hero. Except this version of Spider-Man acts a whole lot more like the Punisher, plus a little bit of Sherlock Holmes in there. Spider-Man Noir regularly patrols the streets, investigating crime and solving mysteries. Once he's cracked the case, well, he takes it upon himself to beat up the criminals too. This Peter Parker lived in New Lunar York, a colony on the moon that basically resembles a futuristic New York. But outside of living on the moon, well, he's your basic friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Unfortunately, we never really got the chance to see just how powerful he truly was. He was quickly taken out by Morlun during the SpiderVerse event. In this alternate universe, on the day when Pete was supposed to be bitten by the spider, well, he forgot his lunch at home. And so Aunt May rushed to the field trip, lunchbox in hand, and she was bitten by the spider instead, not Peter. From there, well, Aunt May became Spider-Ma'am, ready to make her neighborhood a safer place. And while she has about the same amount of strength as the other Spider-Men, her old age still does keep her on the lower end of the power scale in the Spider-Verse. As Into the Spider-Verse taught us, anyone can be Spider-Man, and Sun Spider definitely proves that. She was born of Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, but as Sun Spider, well, she's still able to be quite the hero. With a pair of crutches that also act as her web shooters, she's still out there in the streets stopping crime and beating up bad guys. In this universe, after Peter Parker died, Ezekiel Sims took over as Spider-Man, and he held the mantle for years, to the point where when SpiderVerse happened, he was basically like the Spider-Man version of Old Man Logan. Now, Old Man Spider has all the same powers as other Spider-Men, but a lot like Spider-Man, he's also just a bit worn down due to his old age. However, this still doesn't stop him from being ready to throw some hands at a moment's notice. Peter Parker is from an alternate universe where literally every superhero is some kind of animal, like Doctor Strange and Doctor Doom. Like every Spider-Man, Spider-Ham has the same powers: super strength, web slinging, so on. His only downside, though, is that he's a pig, making it kinda difficult to fight against some other villains from outside his universe. Unlike Peter Parker, Dr. Aaron Aikman actually chose to transform himself into a Spider-Man, rather than accidentally being bit by a spider. He went through an experiment that combined his DNA with a spider's. But it didn't go the same way as other Spider-Men. Instead, in order to tap into his powers, Aikman had to build himself a mechanical suit. While the suit definitely makes him strong and powerful, without it, well, his powers are basically useless. In this universe, Betty Brant was bitten by a radioactive spider during Peter's field trip, rather than Pete himself, causing her to become Spider-Girl. Her powers are the same as the real Spider-Man, and she's even got the same web shooters too. Spider-Girl became friends with the Peter from her universe, and he helped to create her very own web shooters. After the loss of Gwen Stacy at the hands of the Green Goblin, this Peter Parker ended up killing the Green Goblin in an act of revenge. He then stopped being Spider-Man, became the Goblin instead, a much fiercer, more lethal anti-hero. In fact, the only reason why he's not higher up on the list is just because his mental state definitely isn't the best. Watching the love of your life be killed, then becoming a killer yourself, will kinda do that to a man. Cooper Cone was Marvel's first gay Spider-Man, becoming Web Weaver. He's a fashion icon alongside being a superhero, and his spider powers are actually pretty well defined too, like his web sense can keep him out of most any danger. Spider-Man is from the Japanese TV show when they made their own version of Spider-Man. Now his powers are a little bit less in the show than other real Spider-Man, mostly thanks to budget reasons, but all that is kinda made up with the fact that he's a giant mech robot known as the Pardon that he'll call into battle with him. Most of the Spider-Verse heroes are just different Peter Parkers from different countries. And Arachnido Jr. is no exception, essentially being the Spider-Man from Mexico. Arachnido Jr.'s main nemesis is Scorpion, a version of Scorpion who managed to kill Arachnido Jr.'s father. He then became the crime-fighting superhero protector of Mexico City, and eventually even became part of the Spider-Verse. In this universe, Peter Parker, who is still Spider-Man, and Mary Jane end up getting there happily ever after. They even had a daughter, who they named May Parker. May inherited some of her dad's powers, becoming Spider-Girl and eventually Spider-Woman. Now, May is a bit weaker than her dad, because she's a mix of her dad's spider powers and her mom, but she's still proven herself to be a fantastic hero in her universe. In this universe, Billy Braddock trained under Captain Britain in Britain, until he was bitten by a radioactive spider and gained similar powers to the Spider-Man over in New York City. Yeah, Peter Parker exists in this universe. So Braddock created a similar outfit, became a new hero, just with a bit of an English twist. Pavita Prabhakar is basically just Peter Parker from India. But instead of being bitten by a spider, Peter gained his spider abilities from an ancient yogi who gave him the gift to fight the evil in his world. He mostly faced off against a version of Norman Osborn who was able to summon a demon, who would transform him into a literal goblin. Bobby Brown is the Spider-Man from a universe where Norman Osborn has become president and dictator of the US, causing Spider-Man to lead a revolution and fight back. While Spider-Punk pretty much has the same powers as other Spider-Men, what sets him apart is his spider army. A mass of followers at his back, you could say Spider-Punk is basically unbeatable, unless you're able to separate him from his adoring fans. Patton Parnell is basically the opposite of Peter Parker, a sociopathic maniac who experimented on animals, didn't necessarily become responsible when he gained his powers. Unlike the other Spider-Man, when Parnell was bitten by a spider, he gained the ability to transform into a grotesque, spider-like beast. He ate his uncle and implanted hundreds of baby spiders into his love interest Sarah Jane. So definitely not a great dude. Not much is known about Spider-Wolf, but we can guess that he comes from a gothic universe, where a lot of people are actually werewolves. Spider-Wolf has the combined strength of Spider-Man and a werewolf, making him incredibly powerful. So the villain Karn hunted him down before he could team up with the other Spider-Man, just because how powerful he was. Man-Spider was a genetically devolved version of Spider-Man that basically answers the question, what would have happened if a spider had been bitten by a radioactive human? Man-Spider has basically all the same powers and abilities as Spider-Man, except he can shoot out acid and form webs without his web shooters. While he might not be as smart as Pete, Man-Spider's brute strength more than makes up for it. Unlike Spider-Man, Spider-Girl gained her abilities from the Spider Society, a mystical group that worships spider deities. Anya's spider abilities are a tad bit stronger than Pete's, and on top of that, she's got camouflage like Miles Morales and skeletal flexibility, which allows her to compress herself or to withstand attacks like Mr. Fantastic. Ben Reilly, or Scarlet Spider, is quite literally a clone of Peter Parker. See, one of Spider-Man's villains, the Jackal, used Peter's DNA to create an exact clone of him. However, turns out the clone had Peter's personality, turning against Jackal, starting his own superhero path, becoming the Scarlet Spider. This Spider-Man takes two awesome things, Spider-Man and dinosaurs, and combines it all into one, a T-Rex with the powers of Spider-Man, so easily one of the strongest Spider-Men out there. Sure, he just might not be the most graceful or agile, but literally a T-Rex with spider powers. That's a force to be reckoned with. In this universe, Mary Jane had to become a Spider-Man in order to help protect her family. Peter is still Spider-Man here, and he managed to design a suit for MJ that gave her all the same powers. But the downside is that the suit would essentially drain Peter of his powers whenever he used them, especially when they were close together. Eventually, after a run-in with Venom, MJ's suit actually started to absorb Venom's powers as well. So at her peak point, Spinneret had the combined strength of Spider-Man and Venom, making her into a truly powerful superhero. Here, Peter and MJ ended up having a daughter, Anna May Parker. Like the other May Parker, Anna May gained spider powers from her dad, but she gained these powers without any limitation. And she also gained another power on top of that. While Pete's spider sense can tell him about danger moments before it happens, Spiderling's spider sense can warn her about danger a few hours in advance. With this level of precognition, Spiderling is definitely a powerful Spider-Man. Penny Parker is basically the Peter Parker from Japan, but instead of being bitten by a spider, she teams up with a radioactive spider named Spider that controls a giant mechanical suit. So while Penny doesn't have any powers herself, the spider makes her one of the strongest members of the SpiderVerse. See, the spider suit is incredibly powerful and essentially has no limits. It can have any weapon that the moment requires and has almost unlimited defenses. In a futuristic, apocalyptic universe, Peter Parker isn't just Spider-Man, but also a cyborg. He's got super robot arms, metal claws, but the best is the massive sonic cannon on his right arm. Basically, he's like a combination of Spider-Man and Cyborg from over in DC Comics, making him one of the strongest heroes in the Spider-Verse. Unfortunately, like all the other powerful Spider-Men, Spider-Cyborg was immediately targeted by the villain Karn due to the threat that he posed. Spider-Gwen has definitely become one of the more famous Spider-Men over the past years, coming from a universe where Gwen Stacy was bitten by a spider and Peter Parker ended up losing his life instead. She went on to fight crime and protect New York City like other Spider-Men. But one of the things that sets Gwen apart is actually just her access to police equipment. Her dad, Captain Stacy, is still alive in this universe, which means that she has direct access to all the police gear she wants that she can use in her crime fighting. Much like Scarlet Spider, Silk is another one of the Spider-Men that actually comes from Earth 616. In fact, her origin is actually tied in with Peter's from the beginning, as she was bitten by the same radioactive spider moments after Peter was bitten. While Silk's a little bit physically weaker than Pete, her other abilities make her more than a match. Her agility blows Peter away, as does her spider sense, which is more sensitive than pretty much any other Spider-Man out there. Genetically enhanced and experimented on by Hydra, Jessica Drew was molded into the perfect assassin and sent out to kill Nick Fury. However, she eventually saw the true nature of Hydra and actually ended up as a SHIELD agent instead, becoming Spider-Woman, and even joining up with the Avengers. She has roughly the same physical powers as Spider-Man himself, same strength, speed, all that. But she also has some powers that are unique to her. Spider-Woman can release pheromones that can cause other people to panic or run away. She can also unleash some pretty powerful venom blasts to take enemies down. Miles Morales, he's the main character of Spider-Verse. He's a star in video games. He's even got a live-action movie on the way. While he may at first have just been another version of Spider-Man, now he's anything but. First off, Miles is able to make himself practically invisible using camouflage. Secondly, he's able to send electric charges into people he touches. He can even run the electric charges through his webbing to shock people at long distances. Lastly, it's possible that Miles is actually immortal, a side effect from the Oz formula that gave him his powers in the first place. Another Spider-Man from Earth 616 is the Superior Spider-Man, aka Otto Octavius, aka Doc Ock. After Peter and Otto essentially switched minds, Otto became stuck in the body of Peter Parker, while the mind of Peter lost his life in the body of Otto. But because he had all of Pete's memories, Otto had a change of heart and promised to continue the legacy of Spider-Man. Essentially, the Superior Spider-Man is all the strength of Peter Parker combined with the off-the-charts genius and incredible ego of Otto Octavius, making him one of the strongest Spider-Men ever. In the future of 2099, Miguel O'Hara took up the mantle of Spider-Man after his DNA was mixed with a spider. He has basically all the same powers and abilities as Peter Parker, and some that Pete doesn't have, like legit spider fangs and venom. But what really makes Spider-Man 2099 stand out is saw the future tech, from his suit made out of unstable molecules to legit time travel. There once was a Spider-Man comic where Peter drank a potion that was supposed to make him more powerful, but instead ended with him growing 4 extra arms, so 8 limbs, just like a spider. This was quickly fixed in the mainstream universe, but a what-if comic delved into what Peter would have been like if he had never gotten rid of his extra arms. While his basic abilities seemed to stay the same, his extra arms seriously enhanced his agility and strength, making him into an incredibly stronger version of himself. He was able to easily defeat Doc Ock, successfully saved Gwen Stacy's life, and even played a vital role in protecting the SpiderVerse. This alternate Peter Parker was a bit similar to Patton Parnell, except he's even more brutal. He had a much deeper sociopathic tendencies, and instead of using his powers for good, only used them to hurt people. He was eventually charged with 67 consecutive life sentences for his crimes, but not even that could stop him. Now, what really makes the Spider stand out is the Venom symbiote. Unlike almost every other Spider-Man, the Spider kept Venom with him for his entire career. Venom's powers, combined with Pete's rage, put the Spider at the same power level as Carnage at Carnage's strongest point, making him extremely powerful. If you think about it, Peter is essentially the base average for comparing power levels when it comes to Spider-Verse heroes, with a ton of the alternate Spider-Men being stronger than him, and a lot of others being weaker. Other Spider-Men are faster, some are smarter, some have better spider senses. But what makes the original Peter Parker the best? Well, what Peter does is he has one of the best balances between all of his powers and abilities. That's what makes him one of the best Spider-Men. It's the same as over in the Bat family. Nightwing is more acrobatic than Batman. Red Hood is much more brutal and ruthless than Batman. Tim Drake is the better detective. Cassandra Cain is the better hand-to-hand fighter. Damian is even the better warrior and soldier. But still, none of them are actually better than Batman. Because while they might be better at him in one thing, Batman is better at them in everything else. Peter Parker is like that for this Spider family. There may be some things that he can't do, but he's still the best of them. On top of that, Spider-Man's willpower, his self-sacrifice, the need to live out with great power comes great responsibility, all that has caused Peter to push himself further than almost every other Spider-Man, which again makes him one of the best. But the most powerful Spider-Man of all the Spider-Men is the Cosmic Spider-Man, also known as Captain Universe. Using the power of the Enigma Force, one of the fundamental forces of creation, this Peter Parker became stronger than basically any other being to ever exist. The Enigma Force essentially bumped all of Spider-Man's abilities up to unlimited range, while also allowing him to practically see through space and time or alter everything around him down to the atomic level. All in all, there is no question that this version of Peter Parker is the most powerful and strongest Spider-Man out there in the Spider-Verse. But what do y'all think? Sound off in the comments down below. I know you're gonna have thoughts and feelings on this one for sure. If you stuck around this long and made it to the end of the video, that's amazing. Thank you so much for watching and for supporting us. And if you want to go subscribe, well, go subscribe. You're going to see more videos like this one every single week. I'll see y'all then. I'll see y'all next time.